Welcome to FinBot Insights. A lot of investors are laser focused on returns. But if you're looking for sustainable income, that's built on something else entirely, a foundation of disciplined risk management. In this explainer, we're going to outline a professional framework designed for the modern income investor. It's called the buy and hedge strategy. This classic scene from Caddyshack actually highlights a really critical flaw in how a lot of investors measure their own success. The conversation is always about returns, but it completely ignores the far more important context of the risks they took to get there.
So it's a fair question to ask yourself. Is your portfolio's success being measured correctly? Because true performance can only be understood when you weigh those returns against the risks you took. Without that crucial context, you're really operating with an incomplete picture of your portfolio's health. So let's dive in. We're now going to introduce the buy and hedge strategy. This is a rules-based system, and it's designed to generate performance by putting risk management right at the forefront of every single investment decision you make. Now, don't mistake this framework for just a collection of hot tips or some kind of market timing gimmick. It's not. It's a structured philosophy for how to build and manage a portfolio, and it's built on a set of foundational rules that come from decades of real-world market experience. While there are 5 iron rules in total, we're going to focus on the first 3 for this explainer. Why? Because these 3 really form the core, the absolute heart of the buy and hedge methodology. All right, let's get to our first and honestly, our most critical rule. This one really encapsulates the entire strategy. If you only remember one thing from our discussion today, it should absolutely be this one. Just like in the movie, this strategy is built on some pretty unshakable principles. And the very first rule, to hedge every single investment you make, is the foundational, completely non-negotiable element for success. So what do we mean by hedge? Well, a hedge fundamentally changes an investment's risk profile. By its very design, it establishes a floor for your potential losses. This ensures that any drop in an asset's value results in a mitigated, predetermined loss, not a catastrophic one. And the difference here is it's stark. An unhedged position moves in direct lockstep with the market, which exposes you to theoretically unlimited downside. A hedge, on the other hand, totally alters the profit and loss characteristics of your position. It protects your capital by putting a hard cap on your maximum loss. So how do you actually do this? Well, it's accomplished through several well-established tactics. The strategies you see here, things like a married put or a collar, they typically use options contracts to create that predictable hedge. Now, a deep dive into these is a bit beyond our scope for today, but the important thing to know is that proven tools exist to put this rule into practice. Okay, moving on to iron rule number 2. This builds on our first principle, and it addresses a core management idea. You simply cannot manage what you do not measure. This means you need a clear framework for actually quantifying your portfolio's risk. The mean metric in this framework is something called capital at risk, or CAR for short. It's designed to take the abstract idea of risk and make it tangible. It quantifies the absolute maximum loss you could possibly take on any single hedged position. Here's a great way to think about it. Think of CAR as your portfolio's sleep number. It's that specific number that represents the total amount of money you could lose in a worst-case scenario. It's the number that has to align with your personal comfort level so you can, actually sleep at night. Now, while KR is probably the most intuitive metric, it doesn't stand alone. It works within a bigger quantitative framework that also looks at factors like volatility and correlation to give you a really complete picture of your portfolio's risk. So once every position is hedged and all your risks are measured, the focus shifts to how you actually build the portfolio. The third rule combines 2 tried-and-true methodologies, maintaining a long-term outlook and making sure you have robust diversification. A long-term outlook is really the natural partner to a hedging strategy like this one. It helps you avoid the high fees and emotional decisions that are so common with short-term trading. And crucially, a longer time horizon gives the protective benefits of your hedges the time they need to fully materialize. And that's really where hedged portfolios have historically shown their strength. This brings us to diversification. Instead of trying to build a diversified portfolio stock by stock, which is really hard, this framework uses broad market ETFs for its core. The target allocation you see here dedicates a full 70% to a diversified ETF base, then 20% for your own individual investment ideas, and keeps a healthy 10% in cash.
So, when you put them all together, these three rules combined into a cohesive, proactive approach to managing your portfolio. By adopting these core principles, you can fundamentally shift your entire approach. You can move from just reacting to whatever the market is doing to proactively managing your portfolio's structure and its inherent risk. It puts you back in the driver's seat. And that really brings us to the central question that every single income investor should be asking themselves about their own strategy. Is your portfolio structured to truly manage risk, or is it just built to chase returns? The answer to that question is what ultimately determines your potential for long-term sustainable success. If you found this framework valuable, we'd really appreciate it if you'd support Finbot Insights by liking this explainer and subscribing for more data-driven financial analysis. Thanks for your time.